Boom, 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 boom. Checking the audio, checking the audio. Boom, 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 boom. Checking the audio, checking the audio. Boom, 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 boom. What's up? What's up, my home dogs? Today, I'll be teaching you the best thing in the world. Things about chess, specifically. And even more specific, I'm gonna teach you how to fight the Caro-Kann with the white pieces. So, let's get to it. First of all, Caro-Kann starts e4, c6. We take the center, d4, and black plays d5, and we defend the pawn on e4 with knight c3. Of course, there are different options. We can also advance the pawn or exchange the pawns. But we decide today that this is the best move, and black pieces have only one response here, which is to take and retake. And then we have this move or this move. 99 out of 100 games, one of these two moves is played here. Sometimes they play knight d7 first before playing knight f6, so to keep their pawn structure intact. But we will not discuss this move here today because it will be too much. So we will be talking about this one mainly. And we call this the bishop. Call this the bishop variation. And I give it the color green. So, and the other move, knight f6, call it the knight variation. Alright, give it the color blue. Let's start with the bishop. We drop the knight back to g3 whilst attacking the bishop on f5. And now black almost always drops the bishop back to g6. And one of the main lines here is to play h4, and then black responds by making a little escape square for the bishop so that it can go there after we play h5. So this is very normal stuff in the Caro-Kann. And because it's a main line, we will not play it. So let's go back to this position where we played h4. Let's get these moves out of the opening. We don't play h4 here. Instead, we play knight h3. Now black thinks, oh, that's a strange looking knight, but they're probably gonna ignore it and just play e6, open the diagonal for the bishop. Then we play knight f4. And that's the whole reason we put the knight on the side of the board, which is normally not advised to do. It's because we wanted to play the knight to f4, attacking the bishop, and doesn't really do that much damage yet, because if you take now, black simply takes back with the pawn, opening up their rook. Black, for example, plays knight f6, natural move. And now the big trick is opened from the box. Now we play h4. So there is a big difference between h4 right away and to play h4 once we have the knight on f4. And the difference is, you can pause the video and think about it. If black plays h6 now to make a little escape square for the bishop, we can take it with the knight before they can put the bishop on h7. So let's say black plays h6, we can take with the knight, they have to take back with the pawn, and their whole pawn structure is destroyed. And the king is exposed and the whole position is just redonkulous. We can put pressure on this pawn simply by placing the bishop on d3, and actually the only thing that black can do to defend it is by moving the king to f7, for example. But then we just simply add more pressure by building this battery with the queen, And I think this is just over for black. For example, black develops the bishop, you know, you can take, and we can castle. And if you're very lucky, black will put the rook on f8, after which you can bring the rook. They play b5, for example, because they have no move, and boom, it's checkmate. So, of course, this is extremely lucky play that they put the rook here, but you get the point. This is a very nasty position for black, and it all happened because they played h6 here. And the thing is, Caro-Kann players, especially in blitz or bullet games, they tend to play h6 after we play h4 because that's in their system. So that's what they normally do, but normally there's no knight here. And so this actually happens quite a lot, even at ratings around 1800. h4 triggers them to play h6. Really funny because it's really bad move. All right, so let's say black doesn't play h6 and keeps their calm, and they play bishop d6, for example. Now we simply play h5, and they have to put the bishop on f5 because they want to make a run for it. We can trap the bishop. You can pause the video here, or if you see it right away, you don't have to pause the video. We can trap the bishop playing c4, and it's an easy game again for the white pieces. So black has to play bishop f5, which leads to this trade where they mess up their pawn structure once again. And thing is, we can easily add pressure again by putting the bishop on d3. And for example, black castles now, and don't take the pawn yet with bishop, because black has this nasty fork, which will basically lose you the bishop. So don't be too greedy to cash in. You know, I think putting the queen on f3 is a great move. And for example, after they take, we take back with the queen, and we have some more pressure on this pawn, and this fork doesn't work anymore. For example, they check. We can simply put the bishop in between. They develop the knight and pick up the pawn, and this is completely fine because we have defended the bishop. The thing is, however, just in case, sometimes if you're very lucky, black tries to hold on to this pawn by playing this nice looking move, which kind of solidifies their whole structure. So it seems, at least, because we can actually just take, and take the pawn, because this pawn is pinned by the rook, because h pawn just left the h file. So, boom, check. This is another easy game for white. So black should never play, ever. Black should not even think about playing g6 here, all right? And if they play g6, you know what to do, all right? So just keep in mind that this pawn is yours. Just not quite yet, but it will be yours. You will be a pawn up, and it's easy game. So that's what you should play against the Caro. Of course, there are other things to mention here, which is that if black doesn't develop this knight, for example, goes for bishop d6, and now we play h4, and let's say black plays queen c7, building this cannon here, then we actually don't have time anymore to play h5. All right, don't play h5 if this cannon is in place, because now this knight is kind of hanging. So you would expect maybe this and this. This would be good, but that would be a very nice world the reality is that black has this desperado attacking the queen. We have to take back. They pick up the knight and we're pawn down. So if black managed to build this cannon, by all means, don't play h5. Right? So it's another don't in this opening. Just take the bishop. And this position is kind of equal. You have to accept that. Although there is some fun play left, of course, in this position, which is knight e4 to bring it to g5 later. All right. So black tries to hold on to the bishop, for example. We can simply take it and bring the knight g5. Thing is, black pieces cannot play f6 to kick out the knight, because then this pawn will be hanging. And this pawn as well, because we have a fork. All right, so get your knight g5. All right, and after this, for example, I don't know, black plays this. We can simply kick out the queen and solidify our pawns. Almost all of our pawns are on dark squares. We have the light squared bishop, so it can move freely around the board. The position can breathe. The position is good. The structure is good. Easy game. And we took black out of their known territory, probably. Unless he's a GM or she, and she knows exactly what to play here. But I highly doubt it. So, those are the main things about this position. Is you should aim play h5, but don't always play it. Only play it if the position allows it. For example, if black has played knight f6 instead of queen c7. If this cannon is there, just take the bishop. All right. The other thing to keep in mind is that if we have the other position where we are attacking the pawn with the bishop, we should not take it right away because black has this fork. Last thing to keep in mind is that if black tries to hold on to the pawn by playing g6, we can simply take. We can enjoy ourselves a nice little slow cooked rook with some salt and pepper. Please, thank you. So, key move, of course, is knight h3. That's where it all begins. That's where the fun starts. And that's where we take black out of the comfort zone. And that's the last place a Caro-Kann player wants to be, is out of their comfort zone. All right. So, I mentioned this, that black can also play knight f6. We called it the knight variation. It's actually just another main line of the Caro-Kann. In this case, I'm going to keep it very brief because we can have like a system setup that always works. They take back with the center pawn, and we can solidify playing c3. There's no need to play anything else because there's no knight on b1 that wants to go to c3. So we might as well put the pawn there. This bishop has free movement. This bishop has free movement. And we have the knight. All right. So, for example, bishop d6. Now, where do we put the knight? Don't want to put it on f3 because it's a dead end. All right. There's this pawn. Blocks e5, g5. So, we want to put the knight on e2. But that would obstruct our own bishop. So we move the bishop first. We move to d3, which is the best spot for the bishop. Now after black castles, we actually want them, we want to stop them from playing f5. So we build this battery first. They can never play f5 here now. And after they check, you can simply block the check with the knight. And now they play h6, for example, to prevent this. You also see h5 a lot, but on lower ratings or intermediate ratings, they almost always play h6 or even g6. And now we can simply castle, and if they build this battery, we can play h3, and this is just the main setup that you want to go for in this variation. All right, so first we play the bishop, then we play the queen, then we play the knight, and then we play the king. All right, there are some other piece move orders in different positions. For example, if black plays this first, build the cannon, then we can actually just keep playing the queen, because they could take the pawn, but after we move the knight, they have to move the bishop back, because otherwise we can trap it. So they basically used 2 moves to get 1 pawn, and that's of course a bit sketchy to do in the opening for the black pieces. So let's say black doesn't take the pawn at this position and decides to play this bishop here. I think after we play the knight and black castles, we can actually attack this cannon. Try to undermine it with c4, c5. For example, if they play the rook here, you can play c5. And they have to drop back their bishop, which is really annoying. Boom, chicka laka laka laka. I'm sweating. I'm sweating because it's too hot in here. Even though it's freezing. But these chess games just make me sweat, man. And they make me a lot of things, as a matter of fact. Anyways, I want to show you some games and to show you how Caro-Kann players panic. They fall into my traps, into the lines that I just showed y'all. First game I want to show you is against this Italian friend. e4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3 takes, and they bring out the bishop to f5, the main line. I bring back the knight to g3. They drop back the bishop. We play our signature move, knight h3. Now they play e6, which is all according to the books. And we attack their bishop. Bring back the knight to the center of the board. Knight f4. Very important move. Now they develop their knight, which is a normal move, I guess. And we play h4, going for that bishop. Now, the thing is, this triggers Caro-Kann players to play h6 or h5 to make some space for the bishop. They are very scared of this move, Caro-Kann players, and they know this move from the main line, but normally there's no knight here. Yes, so h5, and because we have this knight here, this is a very bad move. Very bad, naughty move. We take the bishop, the whole pawn structure is ruined. We can simply attack this pawn with the bishop. They defend with the king, and we attack it again by building this cannon. We take, and it's just GG after this move. Black's position is in complete ruins, if you ask me. So this is another game I want to show you. Another Caro-Kann for y'all. Knight h3 and e6. Attack the bishop, and this is just really funny because this person was like, all right, I submit. You can have my bishop. You don't no need to play h5. I just bring my bishop to the altar, and you know, goodbye bishop. And we saved ourselves a move. So this is just very nice for us. Attacking the pawn. I pinned the knight here with the queen, which was not the best move according to the engine, but hey, I've never seen this move, so I had to improvise. And later on, took the pawns, and of course this knight is pinned, so they cannot take. And this pawn is also pinned, so they cannot take. So they had to move the rook, and after this, it was just quickly over for the black pieces. You know, I mentioned this before that black should not play g6 trying to hold on to the pawn. In this case, actually, it was not that bad because we didn't have the h5 pawn, but I moved it anyways to h5 to undermine their structure. All right, so next game against another Italian human. d4, c6, d4, d5, knight c3, takes, and the bishop to f5. Drop back the knight, they drop back their bishop. Knight h3, signature move, thank you very much. And after some moves like this, again, Caro-Kann players, they know they have to play this now after h4, but this person realized there was a knight waiting for this to happen. So instead, they did another completely unnecessary move, and they brought the bishop to the center. We kicked it with the pawn, kicked it with another pawn, and you can pause the video here if you want to find finishing moves, how to trap the bishop. That's right, d5, and after takes, their bishop is trapped. The game is lost for black. Alright, last game. This is actually, to me, this is hilarious because everything happened like normally, and then they just played h6. They were like, alright, you got me. After knight h3, they completely surrendered and wasted more moves, basically. I didn't even have to move this pawn, so they moved that bishop 3 times. They moved their h-pawn without and for no reason, and we are just up so much momentum that the engine already says 0.6 after, which move is this? After 7 moves, and we just make use of this tempo, trading the bishops, activating the rook, and normal looking move is already completely lost. You can sacrifice the knight here, and after takes, you can pick up their bishop, and it's just over for black. They could have tried after the sacrifice of the knight. The engine, by the way, says sacrifice the rook instead. Don't sacrifice the knight. This is also good. The engine thinks that you can save the bishop here, but it's even worse because after queen check, we have the knight coming in hot on f5, and this is mate. So, for example, they defend, we take the bishop, and this is mate, so they have to take the rook, and we're just up 3 points. Another easy game. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys these games because these are 1700, 1800 rated players. I was a bit lower then, but even at these ratings, 3 minutes games, they just freak out. The Caro-Kann players, they freak out after knight h3, as in this case, and in the other cases after we played h4, they did some funny things, and yeah, that's how you abuse that. So, chaka-laka laka, brum brum brum. That's it for today, guys, and I hope you learned something. And you know, don't play chess. It's a waste of time.